Hi, I'm Rob Barrett. I'm running for U.S. Senate. We are here today with Dr. Scott Jensen, who is also a senator and is an amazing mind. And so we're going to talk about healthcare and how do we fix healthcare. And we're talking about three aspects of it. But first of all, what is government's role in fixing healthcare?
Rob, that's a great question. Because I think a lot of folks say, gee, there but for the grace of God go I. And I think we want everybody to have some basic package of coverage. But with the Affordable Care Act, it went too far. 10 essential benefits was like trying to give everybody a BMW. What we need to do is make sure that people have some basic package of care so that they're not sitting on an appendicitis or they don't have a stroke on a Saturday and wait until Monday to come in. I think most Americans would agree that we should strive to do that. But we cannot provide everything to everybody whenever and where they want it. That's just pie in the sky dreaming.
So how do we decide who gets a heart transplant, right? Because we can do that now. It's millions and millions of dollars. How do we decide who gets the heart transplant?
That's hard stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say, should we do a heart transplant in a 95-year-old, someone might say, well, I don't want to deny a 95-year-old person the right to have a heart transplant. But then if I say, do you know that if we do the heart transplant, you have a risk of dying at 95 of greater than 75%. But if we don't do that and we treat you medically, you have a much better chance of living the next 3 to 5 years. So we have to have the conversation. And I do think that at the end of the day, if patients can have a relationship with a physician who they trust, it makes it a whole lot easier to sort through that dollar-driven healthcare industry that we all live within today.
You should write a book about that.
I did write a book because to me, I think the best care is given when patients are encouraged to be their own best champion. If I'm seeing you as a patient, you're in charge. I'm there to answer your questions, be a resource. And I may even tell you two things. I may say, well, Rob, this is what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, you're supposed to be on Lipitor. But if I were in your shoes, this is what I do. I try a more natural way. I would try to stay off of big-time prescription drugs if I can. In America, we have 5% of the world's population, but we take more than 50% of the prescription drugs. In America, we consume more than 90% of the OxyContin made in the whole world.
How much?
More than 90%. 5% of the population of the world.
Is there a problem with OxyContin?
Well, I think the opiates is another video.
So what's the individual responsibility?
Well, I think we have to legislate and govern ourselves within the context of what's human nature. And human nature has blessings and curses. If we tell people, you can have every bit of care anytime you want it, don't worry about it, no cost, someone else is covering the bill, people will cause an inflation of utilization to occur. What does that mean? Well, that means that when Bill in the neighborhood comes down with colon cancer, all of a sudden, everybody's going to want a colonoscopy, even if they had a normal colonoscopy just a year earlier. I get requests many times where someone in a community of people will have a lung cancer diagnosed. And they'll come in and they'll say, maybe I need a chest x-ray. Well, you don't have any symptoms and you don't smoke. Well, Bill just had lung cancer. I said, yeah, but Bill smoked for 30 years. Yeah. There is no question. People's utilization of healthcare services will go up during various circumstances of their life. So what does that mean in the end run? People have to have some role in being good stewards.
Skin in the game?
Yeah, skin in the game. Some people get offended when we use that phrase, skin in the game. So let's just change the nomenclature. Let's just say, in order for us to be the best stewards of the resources we have, we need to be engaged and we need to be thoughtful. And our decision making has to be born of thoughtful analysis, not knee-jerk emotional reflexes. And that's the individual responsibility, is we cannot have individuals think that big brother government will take care of everything. We're all in this together. And if one person is consuming enormous amounts of resources healthcare-wise and doesn't need to, and in doing that, takes away from another person having the opportunity to have even the most basic care, I don't think that's the people that we are.
That's a cultural change almost, isn't it?
It is. And the only way we can make that cultural change is to have the conversation. And the only way we can have the conversation is we need patients and physicians to have the kind of relationship that you and I have. You can call me on the phone anytime, ask me a question, say, hey, I'm on the floor of the Senate and I need to know, how does this work?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how it works in the world I function in.
With the conglomeration of healthcare, how is that possible? Because what I hear anyways is that all the little clinics are getting bought out by the big clinics, or it seems like there's just a few big companies that are running everything. Which seems to make this less possible. Is that
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We could talk about vertical integration, we can talk about horizontal integration, but I think you said it well. We're seeing a coalescence of the stakeholders so that there's more and more control and authority on this hand, and the patient is feeling increasingly like a pawn. How does the patient step up to the table and say, hey, I've got some thoughts about this too, and I'm not just some guinea pig in the corner. I can't say yes to that medication. I'm not comfortable having that surgery now. It might seem like this is a wonderful time to be a patient because we can do so much, but it's hard to be a patient today. It isn't necessarily an automatic thing that you can trust your physician. It's not that your physician might be making a conscious, unethical decision, but they may be making an unconscious decision that really doesn't always serve the patient to the best.
Well, they've got to protect themselves.
They do.
You got to run these tests because, well, what if I don't, then I'm liable.
The malpractice piece is a real piece. Physicians do try to protect themselves, but sometimes we try to protect ourselves economically too. If we invest in a big MRI machine, and all of a sudden the administrator comes by and says, do you know, we projected that we're going to do 10 MRIs a week and we're only doing 2. And because of that, we're going to have to dip into your salary this year and you won't get paid what you were sort of expecting. There's that kind of decision making as well that goes on. But I think, any conversation regarding healthcare isn't going to be complete if all we talk about is the individual role and the government role. I think we have to ask ourselves about the industry itself.
Yes, what's the industry role?
I think that right now, without question, the biggest inflation-driving element of the healthcare puzzle is pharmaceuticals.
Really?
Yeah. I think we've had a lack of transparency. We've had middlemen playing roles that are far too powerful and cloaked in secrecy.
That the pharmaceutical benefit manager?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly what's going on. And that's driven the price up and it's taken away input and control from patients. But we've also got the pharmaceutical manufacturers who know how to do it. We've got the wholesalers and they take their cut of the pie. In the end, quite honestly, the independent pharmacists, the pharmacies that are actually reaching out and handing you your amoxicillin, they're feeling increasingly powerless. They're oftentimes not making even a decent living. We saw in the news a few weeks ago that 100 pharmacies are being closed in one fell swoop. Wow. We had an insurance company that was large. They cut out their pharmacies. We're seeing it happen in the private sector, in the big box sector.
Target got rid of theirs.
Target got rid of theirs.
Didn't see that coming.
And they didn't do it because they were making too much money.
No.
So I think when we look at the pharmaceutical industry, we've got to start asking hard questions.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Rob, I've changed my mind over the last 25 years in regards to direct-to-consumer marketing. I used to think it was a positive. I used to think that giving patients information on TV would allow patients to know what's out there. Because sometimes physicians might choose to not offer something to a patient because it might not be a big deal to the physician. So I thought, okay, let the pharmaceutical manufacturers go straight to the consumer and tell them, hey, we do have this product. It might improve your life. But what's happened is the pharmaceutical manufacturers have gone way over the top. They're putting ads on TV on Sunday afternoon in the middle of the Vikings game, and they're saying, they're saying, you know what? We can change your life. You take this product, you'll leap over tall buildings, you'll run at the speed of light, and you'll feel wonderful. And the fact of the matter, that isn't what happens. So on Monday, after the football game, I get all the requests saying, Doc, how come you haven't put me on drug XYZ?
Yeah.
I hear it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I said, well, here's the deal. This, and this is a problem. It can cause this and this. It also has a side effect of causing cancer. It's $12,000 a year. Wow. And honestly, the products that you're on right now are doing a good job. That's why I haven't offered it.
Right.
You ask me, am I at risk for some of these things in regards to malpractice or being sued? And you're right, there is that risk. And you'll see increasingly physicians in their charting putting down patient decline this, or we discussed this. We're trying to cover ourselves to make sure that if we broach the topic with a patient, we put it out there. Yes, we could do this. I wouldn't recommend it, but we could. Do you want to be on the Lipitor? Do you want to take this drug that could, as a side effect, cause lymphoma cancer.
Right.
But we document it, that we talked about it.
Wow.
The problem with that is we spend an awful lot of our time documenting rather than looking the patient in the eye saying, how can we help you
How do
best?
you feel? Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for helping this. Let's do this together, work
Absolutely.
on this. And those are great ideas. And, it's a huge onion of stuff. It's a little overwhelming when you think about how do we fix some of these things, because it's just the layers and layers and layers and layers. They're incredible.
And the only way we're going to peel the layers off the onion is to boldly and willingly say, I'm not going to let this conversation be confined because of a fear of the next election or whether or not this is politically unpopular. We have got to have these hard discussions. Can we provide everybody everything they want, wherever they want it and whenever they want it, at no cost to them? Can we let government go in and say, yep, you've got a Cadillac plan, we're picking up the tab? Can we let pharmaceutical manufacturers say, you know what, we're not doing anything wrong. We're doing exactly what everybody else does on Wall Street. You might call it price gouging. We just call it maximizing profits.
Well, it's good. So, Rob Barrett for Senate. There's just some ideas. Dr. Scott Jensen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. I'd love to see you be our next senator.
That's the plan.
Thank you.
All together.